Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the veteran and first responder community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. Now, listeners, I'm very excited to have with us one of my really good friends, amazing guy, Gary Bates. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the synchronicities of how Gary and I came into each other's life are pretty cool, so I definitely need to talk into it. I was in my local favorite cafe here in North Brisbane, and the owner said, "Oh, you've met Gary, haven't you?" Assuming we'd already met. And I'm like, "No, tell me about Gary." And she's like, "Oh, I won't tell you, I'll just introduce you." And then the next time we came together in the cafe, it was like we'd known each other for eons. So conversation always flows. The man is an oracle of wisdom in many, many ways. So it's so wonderful to have you here with us, finally.
Thank you so much for the kind welcome.
And so please share with us, Gary, what is it that you're doing in the world right now?
Oh, so for me, my degree was musculoskeletal therapy. I did a Bachelor of Health Science many years ago. Led through that, and it's kind of got me way more into holistic health coaching. So not just about the body now, more getting into that in the mind, the body, and the spirit together, and seeing how it changed. I mean, as you know, I've worked at Mates for Mates, a charity we both know very well, for when they first started. Actually, I can't remember what year it was now, but yeah, they used to be down there at the Brecky Creek. And the thing that I found there, working especially with a lot of the vets, was that unless you could get into the stresses and strain, you could never actually take away the pain, because essentially it's that energy inside. It's an emotion. And with the other things that come along with emotion, it was, so I found that by changing their breath, by stimulating their vagal nerves and calming them down, you're able to really go. And that was it. It was a huge catalyst for me to stick me on the path that I'm on, to see how much that the mind can change the body. Yeah.
It's like an exploration of the different ways to get into the body too, because you said you did musculoskeletal, but then it's like that has accelerated you into a more holistic approach, looking at so many different ways.
Definitely. It's and then just to, I guess for me that it took me on a path of realizing that, our body's like, it's like the most amazing pharmacy that ever known to man. So to put it into the right environment and to water it in the right ways and nurture it and love it, it just grows, and it grows strong and healthy. It's even, there might be a little fungus on there, but you can treat that yourself and move that around and clear it out. So yeah, it's so that's what I do, is basically I assist people on their journey to fix themselves. And that's my goal in life, is that I want to be able to give, I've had clinics and I've had people coming through, and my goal is to be able to teach you how to treat yourself, to therefore not have to go and see someone, because we've all got that ability within us anyway. So to just be able to coach you along and just guide you into that way, so you can fix, your pain, the emotional stuff. Yeah, that's really important to me. So that's my goal.
From your experience so far, like, what is it that you've found has activated within people that sort of want within them to do the work that you're teaching? Or, has there been a point in manipulating the physical body that has awoken within them, yeah, I can do this, I can heal myself, show me how?
Unfortunately, I think that with most people that I see, it's kind of like, I see them after they've seen so many other people before. And it's like, oh, I used to get it so much. I mean, I keep going back to Mates, but I would hear it so much. It's like, I've been going to the physio and doing this and the chiro and this and this and this. Why can you get me in a better place in 2 weeks than they have in the last 5 years? And it's a different approach to get them to heal themselves that allows them to move forward so quickly. So unfortunately, I would say, in answer to your question, is I get to see people more often than not right at the end. And that's what I want to change. If we can get people at the beginning and let them see that, then they don't have to go through the rigmarole that life, and I think we have a great medical system, but it needs changing.
What do you feel could be I guess the word activation for that to change? Like, what do we need to do to have this preventative style approach, or the education to come in earlier so people go to that before the, if it's broken, replace it, fix it type model?
Yeah. I mean, look, for me, I think there's probably, you can go back to probably 100 years of programming that's brought us to that position where we are. Yeah. And you can actually follow it back to Mr. Rockefeller and see when it actually, does start to come along. But yeah, it's conversations like this.
Yeah.
Conversations to be able to get to one person who might say, someone's husband and wife might be listening to this now, and they can say to their partner, look, let's change this. And this is the way we've got to do it. It's got to be an organic, solid process. Yeah, when people do it, and that word of mouth. So I think that things that you're doing here, like this podcast, so important to allow people to understand it.
And I feel like the word empowered is coming in. And I know maybe you could talk into a recent experience of yours with your ankle, but people to be able to feel empowered enough to make the choices and to trust their body.
Yeah. So I did. I was it was the end of last year. I was at a father-son football match. And yeah, I'm 50 and I've got to realize I'm not 15 anymore like my son. So it was a case of, I was joking with Dan before we went, and I said, we were in the car, and I was like, maybe you got your shin pads? Dad might give you a little kick. And he's come across, I had my foot on the top of the ball. He's come across absolutely amazing tackle. I've been all year wanting to tackle like this, and he's come. But yeah, he knocked me on my ass. And I was like, oh, that really hurt. I was like, I can't show him. Got up, kept limping around, and I knew it was bad. So I ran around for a little longer, and I was like, no, I'm done. But it turned out that I had quite a serious Lefranc fracture. So a Lefranc is the ligament between your big toe and your next toe there. 3 surgeons sitting there in the hospital like, no, you need surgery, you need surgery, you need surgery. And I sort of, was like, okay, I breathe into my body, and I asked my body. I literally do kinesiology on myself. I'll close my eyes and like, is it a yes, is it a no? And I'll feel, my body will tell me. And my body was like, no to surgery. And then okay, well, we're going to put you in a cast. Then I was like, no. And I was like, mate, I'll hop out. So I ended up getting a boot, and I changed what would have been, if I would have gone for the surgery, I'd have had a couple of weeks before I'd had the surgery, let the swelling go down. Then I would have had the surgery. I would have been non-weight bearing there for another 6 to 8 weeks. Then I would have been walking in the boot for another probably 6 to 8 weeks. Then they would have taken the plates and screws out of the foot. So I'd have been non-weight bearing again for another couple of weeks. And it works out, it's about, realistically, it's an 8-9 month recovery.
Yeah, wow.
But through what I know, what I do, through the visualization, through doing my work, I made sure that I was taking my sea salt and my Irish moss, and my body was hydrated. I was doing my vagal nerve stimulation to keep myself into that parasympathetic. I was doing my lymph drainage to move away the old debris and waste, to get that to clear out, to allow the healing to go on in there. I was moving it. I was kind of constantly moving it, but not weight bearing, where it's putting pressure on the bone, but just pumping it and allowing the body to do what it does. And I went that, and within, I think I was 9 weeks, and I was back to pack walking. So
good.
Along, so it was like 9 weeks or 9 months.
And you had it confirmed by an X-ray when you went back to the medical system that it wasn't in need of surgery anymore?
I haven't, no, because I won't go back in for the X-rays. I can tell you what will tell me is when I've got 30 kilos of pack on my back and I'm running up hills at Mount Kufa and running back down.
Yeah,
it's like
the body knows.
Yeah, the body knows straight away, and I really don't need to go through an X-ray to tell me what I already know. I think that's one of the issues that we have a lot now with so many people I see. It's oh yeah, I've had an MRI, I've had a CT, I've had this scan, I need to go for this. I'm like, well, what's it going to change? So you sit under some radiation to know exactly what you'd have known before to change that. It's yeah. There's so many simple things that we can change, and it's like, oh look, the pain's gone. Do I
Yeah.
know what's the matter with it? Because we all have it. It's, you know, I always believe that Gary's always right. If Gary says he can't, he can't. If Gary says he can, he can.
Mm.
And that's true. So when somebody sees this and they say, you know, the doctor showed me my MRI, I've got this, I've got a disc. And you're like, 3 years ago you were told that.
Yeah.
You're like, but no, this is what I've got. This is
Mm.
and it's the same with all dis-ease in my thing. I mean, I think you probably know I've done a lot of meditation. I've sort of had the privilege, done a lot of Joe Dispenza work, a lot of Vipassana and different stuff like that. And it's all about finding that energy inside and being able to change. And there's so many things in there where you know, you look at any elite sports star, you know, I think of Matt Hayden sitting there before the Ashes starts, you know, be looking down the wicket at the Gabba and he's focusing, he's visualizing.
Mm.
He knows what he's doing. He goes out, he makes 100. It's like,
Mm.
it's important for us to do the same. So when we're in a point of disease, is you visualize yourself in that world, you feel what it's like to be in, and that's what allows you. It's simple. It's like manifestation, really.
Yeah, changing your state. I love it. And increasing and understanding and feeling the energy in your body and then trusting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust is a big one, I think.
There's
So I absolutely love the work that you're doing in the world right now. My whole family pretty much have seen you. We love what you do. So tell us, how is it that you got to be doing the work that you're doing now? Like, what brought you on this trajectory?
Oh, I actually I left school at 15 and did an apprenticeship as a glazier.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, it's like a family thing in the UK. And I was working over there and I got to about 24. I was like, this is just not for me. So I literally, I went and drove to Woolwich, went to Australia House and I got a visa. It's all like within a day. Within a week, I quit my job. I came, jumped on a plane, came to Australia. And I was like, enjoyed life.
Why Australia?
Don't know. But it
Mm,
was like, I'm going to go. And yeah, so
cool.
it changed my life. Got drunk in the Coogee Bay Hotel, met
Oh,
my
great
ex-wife.
place.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing. That was back in the 90s. So
Mm,
came over and just knew I needed to change. And so yeah, I went when we ended up moving back to Australia, because she came back to England with me for a little while, and then we came back to Australia. And yeah, I was like, do you know what? I want to study. I want to do something different.
mm,
I could feel that my brain, it wasn't lighting me up. I knew it wasn't my purpose. It was, you know, it was what my grandfather did, what my uncles did, what my brother, what my cousins. It was just a family business, and it wasn't for me. So yeah, I went back, and I did a Bachelor of Health Science, musculoskeletal therapy, and my goal there was to. I always played rugby since I was very young, and yeah, my goal was I was like, right, I'm going to work with the Reds.
yeah.
And I didn't end up working with the Reds. I ended up working with the Brisbane Lions for a few seasons. Yeah, because I finished my degree and I was like, okay, now to do your apprenticeship, because
Mm,
there's so much that you learn when you're studying. But I can honestly tell you, you know, telling you the origin and insertion of a muscle means absolutely nothing until I can tell you why it does what it does and why this and what it's
yeah.
connected to and how
On the
when
job learning.
yeah. And I was fortunate enough to work with a guy called Howard Arbuthnot, and he used to, I think he'd been to about 5 or 6 Olympics at the time. I mean, this is going back to, God, the last one I remember him to go was China, so that would have been 2008. But we used to, so worked in the clinic and it was all like elite sports people coming in. And yeah, I realized that that wasn't for me either. It was like a different, you know, lovely people, but they'd come in and it was, they just, I need you to patch me up so I can get back and do that.
Yeah.
I need deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to work out what was the emotion of why this injury happened to me in the
Yeah.
first place, you know?
Seeking the depth. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of, and that took me on a path. And then, yeah, so I had my own clinics and lots of work. I worked for Mates for, yeah, when they first started. And I worked for them up until 2019. So 2019 was quite a change in my life. I was, I've always enjoyed kind of like high energy thing. I used to race on yachts and we just finished the Brisbane to Gladstone. and there was a cyclone up our arse, so we had a really good run up there, but we couldn't bring the boat back, so it was a road trip and big waves, group of guys together. We're like, let's stop at Noosa and body surf.
Oh dear.
So yeah, and I got picked up by a wave and it just literally smashed me down on my head, and I turned out I dissected my internal carotid artery.
Oh
That was
wow.
in 2019. Yeah, so many. And again, me being me, as I was like, no, I don't need to go to hospital. And I was sort
Oh
of
God.
busy spells. And I was like, it was 2 weeks before I went to hospital. And I was like, I lost my eyesight on the left. I was like, yeah, maybe I need to go. So I went in there. And that was a change. So from there, they just said to me, look, you've got to stop working. You've got to stop doing what you're doing. And so, yeah, I went off and I sat up and I did Vipassana for 3 months. So they do what they call a sit serve.
Mm-hmm.
You do 10 days as a student in just total silence, and then you'll do 10 days serving, which was great. I was still, even when you were serving, I was meditating for like
Mm.
15, 16 hours a day,
Yeah, wow.
everything you do. And it was, so I did that for 3 months, and I'd already booked to go and see Joe Dispenza to do his advanced meditation at Niagara
Mm.
Falls. So yeah, again, as me, as I left the silence of Vipassana straight on a plane to New York.
That's intense.
But I went from vegetarian to sitting in Cat's Diner with this big dude, like still makes me salivate when I think about it. The best Reuben sandwich in the world. If you ever go to New York, you've got to go to Cat's Diner. It's so yeah, it was just it got me very much into I think something that was always in me, but I
Mm.
delved a lot deeper into spirituality and why and how we can heal things. I mean, I was fortunate enough, I got a healing with at Joe Dispenza thing. And again, I mean, even that, I'd sat there and manifested that. I could see the token that was given me and I visualized everything. And we're sitting in there. When you go there, there's like, I think there was maybe 1,500 meditators in the room.
Mm.
It's such a small percentage. It's like, I think it's even 1% that actually get there. Out of that 1,500, I think there may be sort of 50 people that can get a healing.
Mm.
Yeah, you work it. My maths is not growing on that
No,
percentage.
me either.
Some genius will write in for us. But yeah, so I went there, managed to get it, and I'd manifested that going through, and yeah, it was really, and again, to me, that was seeing, and it's taken me into the different places of the understanding of the healing and the energy that you give someone else when you're doing it.
Mm.
So for me to be, and the reason that I tell you this is, I can sit on the screen now and I can look and I can feel, I can see where, I can look at your body and go, oh yeah, I want to work here, here, and
Yeah,
here.
you
And
did it when we're walking along the Brisbane River. You're like, that person needs that. That person needs that.
I said, no, I've never quite found the off switch,
Yeah.
but it's what I love. It's what lights me up.
Mm.
So it's going. But as I get older, I'm certainly learning to. I see it, I think it, and I don't always share it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's how I do things now, and that was a huge for getting me to where I wanted to do is understanding of the energy healing and how you can go from the power that we have. Whether you call it God, source, universe, whatever, you can't. Everything I find that I do, is I want to work in sync with nature.
Mm.
It's everywhere. It's like
Mm.
when you look at Fibonacci's patterns of a wave, and you're like, oh look, there's the 369 as it comes down
Yeah.
there, and you see how a flower or a plant grows, and you look at just everything.
Mm.
And for cultures for millennium, they've all used this, so there's something behind it.
Absolutely.
And there's power within that. So yeah, it taught me how to use energy and how to use my energy to guide other people. I mean, I don't believe there's a word out there now that everyone talks about the healer, and I'm like, I don't see what I do doesn't change what I do. All I do is I facilitate you to move
Mm.
yourself into the way that you've got to go.
Yeah.
Everybody has the power, but we just all need that little guidance, just pushed into the right direction and just
Mm.
gently. led to where you need to go to let you go and
Yeah,
find.
off you go. I'm going to spark your curiosity and give you the no that yes, you can.
Yeah,
And off you go, little Padawan.
that's it. And that's what everyone. So to be able to teach someone to say, you know, look, you can hold here, come down here, we're going to twist this way, turn your head, and we're going to breathe. And
Mm,
that's going to release your fascia and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you don't need to know all the other stuff. It's like, just try and do this.
yeah.
I don't have to teach you about the fixotrophic substance of fascia and how when we heat it and breathe it, it will become softer and mold. And you just
That
don't
stuff
need.
is fascinating though.
It's pretty fascinating, yeah. It's
So there's some physical body things mainly that I've heard you talk about that I would love you to share with the listeners. And one of them is the lymphatic drainage, if you can talk a little bit into that, but also that vagus nerve stimulation, why you incorporate that into the work that you do when you see clients or you do education around it as well. Why are those two really important to you?
yeah. Well, there's nothing that in the body that works on its own.
Mm,
So, I mean, for example, people, especially with the lymph, I mean, if you look, a man of 100 kilo might have 15 liters of lymphatic fluid in his body. You only have like 5 liters of lymph, so of blood. So when you think about the ratio of that 3 to 1, it's pretty important. And it's like the sewage system of the body. I mean, there's well over 30 trillion cells in the body. It depends who you listen to and what sort of quantum, stuff. But every time we're having this conversation now, hundreds of thousands of cells are dying.
mm,
That needs to go into your lymph to be cleared out of your body to allow the new ones to grow. And it's just that constant moving and the process around it. And so for me to get your lymph flowing correctly and take away those different blockages around your body, well, that therefore means that your blood will flow properly. And if your blood's flowing properly, then your nervous system works. And if your nervous system, it changes your breath. So for me, it's about putting all these things together.
mm,
So I'm going to teach you how to move your lymph whilst you might be humming to stimulate the vagal nerve. I mean, again, the vagal nerve, translate the Latin from that is the wandering nerve. And
oh,
it's an
wow.
interesting nerve because it comes up from that fifth cranial all the way down here. And then it branches off into the 2 nerves and it goes to just about every one of your organs.
Mm,
It's like, you start to think, oh, okay.
kind of important.
Pretty important. But the other thing it does, and the thing that I use all the time is it gets you into that parasympathetic state.
Mm,
So when we're in that sympathetic, it's that our fight or flight. That's the one that most of us are in all the time now. Where we live with technology, we're constantly on that dopamine rush, and it's going. We're not wired to ever get well when we're in that state. When you're in that state is when you're wired to, like, I don't know, the dinosaur's chasing me. I'm in fight or flight
leg
because,
it.
yeah, it doesn't matter if I've got a sore finger
Mm,
because if that catches me, I'm gone.
mm,
That's the way that's where we're wired in our DNA. So I need to get you into that parasympathetic where you can get into a point where you're healing. That's
mm,
why when you sleep, when you get in the parasympathetic, that's when all your healing happens. That's why
yeah.
sleep is so important. I mean, you've heard me talk before. I'll take my mouth of the night, so I'm breathing through the nose, which filters the air as it comes in, and it tickles those fine little hairs in your nose, which causes more nitrous oxide, which means your blood's working better, that goes to heal the injuries. And
Mm,
it's things like that that you'll never be told at the doctor.
mm,
It's things like, okay, well, if I take my mouth and I'm doing that and I hum in the shower,
mm,
because when I hum, for that 2 minutes in the shower, that actually humming, singing, you can do like the ice bath on your face. I mean, I'll stick a Tenz's machine in your ears and I'll do it slightly different for certain points in your ears. There's so many things you can do to yourself.
mm,
To just sit there and you'll feel it starts to tickle around your ears, your nose, and your throat. And you just stimulate and you're just putting that nerve into homeostasis. And
mm,
when everything's working well in the body, that's when you start to feel good and
mm.
everything comes well. So
Everything becomes
for me,
alive.
that lymph, the vagal nerve, I want your blood flowing properly. I want just everything to be working together well.
Mm,
And that's where the movement comes and the deepness. I mean, for me, I look at I'm doing a lot of the fascial work, and we've talked about this before with the twisting. So again, add the breath. I like to put a pump because for me, I see that the body's just a system of pumps and pulleys.
yeah.
It's about changing the pressure in certain areas, which allows free flowing, and that within itself, for me, then it means that if everything's free flowing, I have a better connection. I have a better connection to source. I will heal properly. My intuition works properly. It means that when I'm twisting and I'm breathing, it's wringing out all my body, so which clears out, and it's in my gut. When my gut's working well, it's more serotonin. I feel good. When I feel good, life feels better. I've got more energy. Just that's the horrible side effects of feeling good.
Yeah. And it's just like, as you talk, you make it sound so simplified that, but basis of it is understanding the intricate amazingness of the human body and how we can actually support that without too much external influence. It's just like coming within, understanding and supporting ourselves.
Yeah. And that's my goal, is to, if I can teach people that and let them understand of, how you can start to heal yourself, how you can get better. It's like the misunderstandings around viruses and bacteria. People talk about catching cold, and I'm like, no, it's because your body's toxic. Your body's toxic, and when that goes in, it doesn't, again, that pharmacy doesn't work as well as it should, and that's when it happens. And when you catch a cold, people complain. I'm like, oh, hey, I've got a cold. Great.
Yeah, me too.
It clears everything out. I'm getting well.
Mm.
I don't get sick, I get well.
Oh, I'd love to have you on for a whole episode about that, because this is just a conversation unto itself.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. So when you start to understand that and how viruses work and things like that, I mean, then you look at the last few years and you go like,
Yeah, mind blowing, inner conflict. Yeah, so cool. Definitely coming on for a whole episode about that, because even within the veteran first responder space recently, there is an overabundance of medication being thrown at people. Here, fix this. This will fix this. This will fix this. Next minute, shake them upside down. All these pills fall out of them. They're just walking pill boxes. So it's like, how do you then shift from that into this? I want to be more holistic. I want to heal myself. I want to clear my body. I want to cleanse things from, like, what's the transition do you see between those two, like, dualities?
So I would say that most people that I've met, would be guys and they've just been pin cushions for 20 years. And it's like, if I think about what I did to my own children as well, I mean, if you look at a baby, my oldest daughter's 25 this year, and I'm like, God, probably had about 50 different vaccinations over, And yeah, some of them are great, but some of them I'm like, I've look at things now and I'm like, why do I give my 3-day-old baby for hepatitis? I'm like, it's not like they're going to be injecting needles or it's like there's so much of it. I was like, that makes no sense to me then. And why, where your little immune system's not working. But so anyway, I'm diverse. How would I get people to change? It would be simply through education and then showing them how, okay, well, if this is in your system, let's clear the system. So for some people, I work on cycles. You might go that there's a 7-year cycle that will go and everything is totally gone from your body. It's they say how you can never swim in the same river twice because it's constantly moving. Well, the body's the same. So everything's changing. So you can do things on the daily. You can be moving your lymph, just that simple techniques, moving all this stuff so you're getting the waste out. You're exercising. Breath work. I mean, when I say to people about breath work, just to sit down and breathe properly, just to slow the breath down. If you think about, there's only 2 of you or 3 of your organs that are muscles. So if you think about your gut, your bladder, and your heart, everything else relies on your movement and your breath to work. So, for example, the liver does 527 different processes in the body.
Wow.
If I'm not breathing correctly and getting that deep breath, I'm not wringing that liver out. That's the biggest filtration system in the body. And if I'm not filtering everything, it's like the pond. The algae soon starts to grow, and that's when things go wrong. That's when it causes everything else. So to keep that pump up and running is really important. I mean, every breath I take, that liver should move up and down 3 centimeters.
Yeah, wow.
You think about how many people in life now, especially with everything's going on with it, anxious and stuff, they'll chest breathe, and it's like this. But it just means that you're only breathing from here up. You know, if I breathe through my nose, then I come all the way down to my perineum, and it's from the bottom. It means that my lungs are covering. So if you think about how the blood pools in the bottom of the lungs,
Yeah.
like the sacs of the, I always want to say alveoli. I always want to say aioli. I think I actually
Aioli.
I wrote that on my exam when I got, and it just sticks in my head now. Every time I think of those sacs, I think of like nice garlic mayonnaise.
With sweet potato chips.
It's, but yeah, if you're not breathing properly, then you're not using those sacs and you're not pumping,
Mm.
you're not getting the full amount of oxygen in. It's like, you know, what's the point in having a V8 and driving on 4 cylinders? You've got to
Oh,
really,
good one. Yeah.
you know, get it on all cylinders, get the body work. So again, simple thing like the breath.
Mm.
I'll train people like, okay, you know, all right, you want to lose some weight. Best way to lose weight, go for a walk.
Mm.
You want to get your body to your feeling you can still talk, but you're a little bit labored as you're talking and you're coming up, and yeah. So it's like, go and do that. As you're doing that, I want you to practice this box breath. So you're going to breathe in for 4, you'll hold for 4, you'll breathe out for 4, you'll hold for 4, and you'll repeat. And all of a sudden they'll come back a week later and they're like, oh yeah, I feel so much.
The river's flowing.
Yeah. So to teach them that, and then to teach the lymph, to teach, yeah,
Mm.
all about giving you toy.
Bit by bit, the more tools in the toolkit, and then I guess that seeing and feeling the difference within the body will make that curiosity
Yep.
continue, the
Yep.
exploration of self.
And you'll see within 28 days that there's just like such a change in people's lives.
Mm. Mm.
And all this, it's the simple things. It's like, well, you know, the amount of people I get are like, well, I haven't really changed my diet, and you know, I've started losing weight. Great.
Mm.
Because
So,
all it is emotion that holds on to it.
mm.
That's where the inflammation is in that emotion. And that's what you see so many people. So many
Yeah,
people.
and there's such minimal education around that particular component of it that it's not
Mm,
even somewhere that people go to first. It would be great if people went there first,
yeah.
but then
Yeah.
they'd have to feel, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes it's to trick people to not tell them that they're feeling.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people I know that are actually wanting change in their lives. They're wanting to do this. What is, I guess, one diamond piece of information for the initiation, those starters, those people peeping in going, yes, I want to heal my own body. Where do I start?
For me, I would say start with the most simple thing is your breath.
Mm.
And just to slow everything down there. That's where the life is. Once you can slow that down, and it's just that count and that cadence. The other thing it does for you when you breathe and you start thinking about your breath is it takes away depression and anxiety, because for me, depression is living in the past and anxiety is worrying about the future. And
Mm.
when I'm counting my breath and I'm feeling that in my body, I can't be in the past and I can't be in the future. I need to be in the present. So it allows you to bring you into the present. And it's just like it's got so many, it's like the trunk of the tree in a sense.
Mm.
You know, the breath is the trunk, and you know, then obviously the roots and branches will come off and yeah, make a difference in stability.
As above, so below. I love it.
Mm.
I know personally I could talk to you all day long, probably a whole week of conversation, and I'd learn so many new things. So we'd love to have you back on at some stage on the podcast to talk
Love
more
to.
into some other things. But we do appreciate what you've gifted us for today. Is there any final words you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, I just like to say to everyone is, you know, just keep on. It's little small steps. It doesn't have to be. I think a lot of the time that we think it's going to be something terrible and you're giving up so much and you've got to
Mm.
do this. It's not just baby steps. Look, if you need any help, find me on social media. Just message me. Facebook, it's Gary Bates. On Instagram, it's Gary Bates for MST. Have a look there. Just send me a message if there's anything you want a hand with. I'm happy to have a conversation, and I can, yeah, perhaps give you a few tips and yeah, just help you along.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. All of Gary's information will be down in any of the blurb of where this podcast is posted, and we will see you again soon. All right. Katie out.